I was born Margaret Harris. I lived in Homer the first 50 years of my life, and in Cortland after that. So I've at least been a Cortland County resident all of my many years. I grew up at what used to be 77 North Main Street in Homer. It is within the village limits, but it's, I don't know if you know where Factory Brook runs under Route 11. Mm-hmm. We lived in that next house. Mm-hmm. There's one my dad built, the one that's currently right next to it. That used to be our pasture, and the land was much lower. He had filled in. We had 7 acres, so it was like a mini farm. Always had a cow, quite often a pig. We had chickens, and always a garden, because there were a lot of us.
How many were there?
Well, there were 6 of us for several years, and then a couple of afterthoughts. I was 17 and a senior in high school when my youngest brother was born, and 19 and in college when my youngest sister was born. When I started school in September of 1925, that was the year that what was then Homer High School had been built, the new wing. And the grade school, the elementary school, 1 through 8, was the old building that burned in the 1940s. And they had a boys' entrance on one side of the building and a girls' entrance on the other. I remember when my brother Ted, who was next in line, was going to start school, and my mother was checking him out to see that he was appropriately attired and clean. And the first day, and he said, "Well, I'm not going in first grade. I'm going in 3rd grade like Marty. I know everything she knows." And I got a little upset because my mother didn't say anything. Now I know why, of course, but I remember that. So that was a long time ago. When you think how that school has had wing after wing added, and it's K through 2. Seems...
That's what it is now, K
yes.
through 2.
Just seems amazing to me that there are that many little kids. But of course, it was centralized. I mean, it has been.
Yes.
It was just village. And also, if the kids who went to rural schools, I think they all went as far as 8th grade. So if they wanted high school, they had to come in and, live in during the week. And they lived in with various people. Now, Leonard Contento and his sister Teresa, they were both in my class, and Teresa lived and worked at Briggs Funeral Home, and Leonard at Durkee's, poultry farm.
Well, I didn't know they had a poultry farm.
Way up on North Main, up by just before this side of the entrance to Durkee Park.
Is that the same Durkee that had the bakery?
Yes.
It is.
Well, yes.
Same family?
It is, but I don't know why it was. I don't know how that evolved, because when I was very young, my father worked there, and Hastings had it, and they eventually moved across the street and had Hastings House and the woodshed tea room, where I worked summers when I was old enough, waiting on table.
Where did you go to college? You mentioned college.
Oh, Cortland State.
Oh, you went to Cortland State.
My class was the first 4-year class.
The first 4-year class. Wow. And what did you take? What was your field of study?
Well, it was either phys ed or teaching.
And you took teaching?
No, I didn't go back for my 4th year.
Oh, you didn't go back for the 4th year?
I didn't go back for my senior year because I would have had to have a job. That summer I had waited on table at the Hotel Cortland. And Miss Heffron offered me a job Thursday and Friday evenings and all day Saturday and Sunday. Well, what did that do to my social life? It would have been ending, and I was dating the man I married.
Who you were? And who was
So
he?
no, I quit and went to work for the telephone company.
You did, and who was the man that you married? You were
His
dating?
name was Donald Fiske.
And what did he do?
Well, he was a machinist. When he was a child, a train had run over his feet so that he wasn't able to walk well. He couldn't have a standing job.
Yeah.
And he had to have one where he could sit down. So that meant assembly or inspection. And back then, in those days, the factories would lay off periodically. And that's last in, first out. So he was always getting laid off. And he worked a lot of different places. He worked for Smith Corona and for what preceded can't think of it, down on Huntington Street.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, Marathon Metal.
Okay.
And he worked in Marathon for Marathon Metal also. He worked for the other part of National Cash, I can't think what it was called. I think it began with an M, in Ithaca, and he worked for Thermoelectric in Ithaca. He worked for GE in Syracuse. He worked a lot of different places. The longest lasting one was GE in Syracuse because it was during the war.
Wow.
But when the war stopped and they were going to retool, everybody got laid off. So I never intended to work after I had children, but I had to. So I have 3.
Which must have been a challenge.
It was.
Yeah. Who would take care of them while you were at work?
Well, I tried to have somebody who would come to the house for the hours that I worked, because I worked all different hours and never knew from one day to the next. As long as, well, for several years when we were at home. And then the woman who was the chief operator wasn't the chief operator any longer. And they sent somebody up from the Cortland office to replace her. And she did a much, much better job with the hours. Worked them. And this is what we all agreed to. You would work one set of hours for the whole week, and then you'd rotate through the different sets of hours. And the good thing about that was that you would work 7 nights. You work Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday through Thursday, all night, and then you had the weekend off, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
So it was a predictable schedule.
Yes. And you could always change hours with somebody if you needed to. So that was a lot better. And of course then the office closed in 1953 and we worked in Cortland. And there you chose your hours according to seniority and worked for usually a 3-month period.
It's interesting that just about every place you mentioned, including where your husband worked, is no longer in existence. They don't
Right.
exist anymore.
That's right. It is.
They're all gone.
He worked also for a short period of time as a clerk of the works for, it was in Jamesville. I don't know what they were building. I don't remember. He liked that job better. He was very, very smart.
He must have been. And resilient to go from employer to employer, make that adaptation.
Well, I know he said, I'll work anywhere where they hire me and I'll do, a job best of my ability, but I hate asking. In fact, one time, he came back from the office, unemployment office, and he said, I asked that woman, I begged her to send me someplace, suggest someplace, because he'd been to every place that he knew of. And she said, oh, Mr. Fiske, we don't worry about you. We know you will always find a job. Cold comfort.
I was going to say, that's not very helpful.
Oh.
But it's kind of nice to hear that they weren't worrying about him.
And my younger days, they used to have the trolley service and the viaduct. I used to like to sit on the outside seat next to the window and torture myself looking down at that, but to me it was a very steep slope. But what if it should tip over?
It never did.
It never did.
How long did it take to get where you were going on the trolley when you were riding?
It was like the bus ride.
Yeah. It made stops.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think it was in the 30s that they switched over to the bus service. And when I was going to Cortland State, of course I would, if I had an 8 o'clock class, I had to catch the 7:20 bus. And the buses alternated between going up to Hooker Avenue or going up James, the West Road, and coming down Clinton Street to Main Street. And I found that if I saw the bus, do you know where Warren Street is? Well, if I saw the bus at Warren and Clinton, I could just make it by running when it made the Clinton stop. But the bus driver would look for me.
Oh, that's good. You had him trained.
Right.
Do you have a favorite place, either when in Cortland County, either when you were growing up or in present day? Or do you have more than one? Maybe favorite places would be more accurate.
Well, of course, my favorite place was home. I lived in the house I bought when I retired. I lived there 33 years, and I didn't want to leave it.
Yeah. And that was on
Delaware.
It's a cute house.
Yes, it was, and it was a good setup because the bedroom and bath in the back, and the bedroom and bath in the front. There's another room that was, they called it a bedroom, but I used it more as an office. I had all my genealogies and stuff in there. So, let's see what else. Our property was bounded by the Tioga River,
in Homer?
and North Main Street in Homer, and Factory Brook, and right where it flowed in, just before then, many years before, a huge tree had fallen across and made a dam, so that the water was sort of scooped out, and we used to every summer afternoon, we would all be down there, and our friends, in hip deep water. I mean, as an adult, it's hip deep.
Yeah.
And we had a good time.
Yeah.
Playing there. Children, our friends used to always like to come to our house. And my mother told me that one day she counted 23 children had been there that day.
Oh my goodness. Of
But we were all
different-
scattered around. We were not in the house.
Yeah. All different ages?
Yes,
Friends
all
of
different ages. We had our own friends and did our own thing.
And how many siblings did you have?
Well, at that time, there were 6 of us.
Okay, so 6 times 2 or 3.
Well, usually, the boys had 2 or 3, but I think we usually had 1 or 2.
Your mother must have been an interesting woman to
She was.
have that kind of coming and
Yes,
going.
she was. She did have a rule, no screaming unless you're injured.
That's a good rule,
Yes,
especially with that many kids.
right.
Yeah. I met you through the League of Women Voters. I met you when you were in the league, when we were both in
Yes.
the League of Women Voters.
Right.
And you, at a certain point, you retired from the phone company, or they laid you, they went
I
out
was
of business?
retired.
You retired.
At the time I joined the league.
So when you retired, what kind of things did you do when you retired?
I volunteered.
Yes, yeah.
Well, first thing I volunteered for, somebody asked me if I would serve on the Salvation Army Board. So I did that for, I think, 2 terms. And then, about the same time, somebody asked me if I would serve on a committee for the Community Services Board. It was that first year, it was the mental health. But the next year, it was the alcohol and
Did you like that?
yeah, well, yes and no. When I was first on it, I thought, why would I be on this committee? But then, as time went on, I said, I know why they put me on this committee, because I always go to the meetings.
You
And
show
then
up.
I will help people.
You show up.
Or I mean, the alcohol and substance abuse people weren't attending the meetings.
I was on the Community Services Board, and I was on they called it at that time the Mental Retardation, Developmental
Yes,
Disabilities.
yeah, OMRD.
Yeah, and I had the same feeling when I first went on it, because I knew quite a bit about aging,
Yes.
older people. I didn't know a whole lot about what they were talking about, but
Right.
I caught on, probably like you did.
Yes.
Yeah. And what else did you do? Did you do anything for fun when you retired?
Oh, yes. I did genealogy, and I traveled a lot. Well, yes, I guess you would say a lot. I don't mean it was constant
Yeah.
travel throughout the year, but I did do a lot. I like to drive, and I had friends in Maryland I used to go to see, and also prior to that, the person I went to see in Maryland and her brother were both in my class in high school, and he lived in Maine, and he had never married. As a matter of fact, he was 60 years old before he ever married. And he was a nice guy.
You wanted the right one.
I guess so. So I used to go to, they'd invite me up there, and then after get to doing genealogy, I did quite a bit
On your family?
of New England.
Do you?
They were, so many of them were from Massachusetts. Yeah.
That must have been interesting. Did you ever go to Salt Lake City for that?
Yes, I did
Did you?
go once entirely on my own, which was a mistake. I would have gotten a lot more out of it if I had gone with a group. And it was when I was first starting to do it.
You've been in Cortland County your whole life. You've lived here your
Well,
whole life.
when they closed my office, I went to Hamburg. It was, a different department. It was directory assistants. And they were changing over from paper records to computerized records. And there was no opening at my level in Syracuse. All the operators went there. And apparently they thought the management thought I was going to go there. They didn't say anything to me. I went up there one day to talk to the person who was going to do the training. And she said to me, "Have you ever met Mr. So-and-so who had just walked through the room?" I said, I think I might have met him at a party once, but that's all. She said, "Well, he would like to greet you or meet you or something." So I went into the office and he said, "Welcome to A office." I said, "What? I'm not going to do. You're not? No? I have something entirely different in mind. I have an appointment to talk to Dr. Levy, the company doctor, because at that time I had been doing quite a bit with family council. And I thought, I knew from work that there were lots of people that could use counseling. And so I talked to him, and he said, "You were just the kind of thing, just the right person." He said, I have to contact my boss in New York. His boss was a woman, doctor, maybe, probably. No, I don't know whether she didn't think I was qualified or what. They did hire a man for the job, because he sat all day in my office one day, at my desk, taking up my time with one of my employees. But
That's the way, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
I had a long history with family counseling. I was a volunteer family counselor. Yeah, I began in the very early 70s when there was the only one paid person, Joe Feller, who later went to Albany.
Yeah.
You know Joe?
Yeah.
And so, and I had been there all that time except for when I was in Hamburg. And I came back from Hamburg and I called and I said, "Could you still use me as a counselor?" And Bob Gardner said, "Oh boy, can we, Margaret." He said, "You don't know how we missed you." So I thought that was...
They had a crisis hotline back then too, didn't they? Have a
That
crisis
before,
hotline?
yes, along with that.
Okay.
It was not related at that time.
No.
They had one that was not related.
Okay.
I think they have one now. I don't know who. No, last I knew, the hospital had to take it. But it's been about 6 years since I retired from family counseling.
It's amazing how much that has grown now, isn't it? When you
Oh,
think back on
yes.
the one employee and
Right,
and
well,
you,
I'm not sure just how many volunteers they had at the time. Probably Charlotte Angel was the one who got me started, because she signed up and then she took me to the first dinner they had. And she said, "I think you would like it." And I did.
Yeah. What did you enjoy about it?
Well, you get a lot out of it. It's very gratifying to see people do something about what's troubling them and feel better about themselves or whatever the problem is.
And maybe to know that you helped with that somewhat?
Yes. Well, of course, you don't always know. Lots of times you wonder about, is a couple naked or...
Yeah.
I remember there was one couple I counseled, and I used to wonder about that because I thought one half was not so enthusiastic about continuing. And then, it was about a year or so later, I happened to be at Bosse's, and we were in lines for something, and I saw them across the room, and he had his arm, which he was kind of leaning against, and I thought, oh, good.
Wow, that's nice.
And another time, there was another couple, and I saw her in a store afterwards, and she spoke to me. She was wearing a hat in winter, so I didn't recognize her first, not seeing her hair.
Yeah.
And she said to me, she said, every now and then, one of us will say to the other, now remember, Margaret said so-and-so. I thought, my heavens. It must have been something.
It's nice to hear.
It is nice to hear.
Yeah.
But you don't do it for that.
Well, you're a pretty wise woman, I think. You have a lot of life experience behind you.
Well, yes, after 96 years you do.
96 years.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to think about for a minute not necessarily what the biggest change is, but some of the changes that are most striking about Cortland County in the last 60 years, say?
60. Can I go back farther?
Well, if you want to.
I can tell you that my sister said she and our great-grandfather used to sit on the front porch, and one of them would count the horses that went by while the other was counting the cars.
At the same time?
On Main Street.
At the
That's
same
Route
time?
11. Yes.
Oh my God. How did they get along, the horses and the cows, the cars?
Very well.
They did.
There wasn't, traffic was nothing like it is today.
And they must have been going slow. The cars must have been going pretty slow.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Huh. So that's a major change there. We don't have horses in the roads
No.
anymore.
We don't. And it was brick. The pavement was brick. And I think it is in Cortland too. It used to be.
Used to be there were several roads. Even was it last year when they went to repave North Main Street
Yes.
in Cortland? They pulled up the asphalt and there were bricks underneath
Right.
there. And they had to pull the bricks up because the trolley tracks,
Lines, right.
the wooden ties had rotted and made the road slope. Yeah. So you remember when the trolleys
yes.
were coming down the road there. That must have been a major change that we don't have the trolleys anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, another major change is when they stopped the bus service altogether. That was not good. I'm glad they have it again.
Yeah, we have one now, but it's probably not like it was back in the day.
No, but it goes, let's see, the other one went to McGraw too. Last bus at night was the 11:20. That's when it got to Homer. And it only went back as far as the car barns. So, and I think it was not supposed to go to Hooker Ave, but if I was on the bus, quite often they would go up to Hooker Ave so I could get off.
You were special.
Well, I think they would have done it for other young ladies.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, it was a lot safer on the streets for pedestrians, for women and girls, than it is nowadays, and children. Never would escort children to school.
They walk themselves.
Well, certainly,
Never
yes.
think about it. And of course, like you said, when you were out playing around, you probably had to run up the town.
Right.
Not anymore.
Oh, yes, yes, we
Yeah.
walked all over town.
Yeah. Not now, you wouldn't do that now.
No. It was 7/8 of a mile to school, and we went home for lunch. Didn't have a cafeteria. A few children, I think, took their lunch. I know that my siblings always loved to take their lunch. I wanted to go home for lunch. Sit there at my desk, eat a sandwich.
Would your mother make a big lunch for you, or?
No, we quite often had soup, sometimes pancakes, or, because I remember her saying one time, I have stood at the stove for 1 solid hour making pancakes.
Wow, that's a nice mom.
And I remember much later on, I was an adult at the time and not living at home, and I was up there and my father's brother, who had never married, was there, and so my mother said, "What kind of soup do you want for these kids?" And she opened 3 different kinds. Her sister-in-law said to her, "Well, you open one can, they all eat the same kind of soup." And my mother said, "What difference does it make? I still have to open 3 cans."
Your mother was a wise woman too.
Oh, she was.
She sounds like somebody you'd like to meet. She sounds like an interesting lady. Of course, you're an interesting
She was a
lady,
nicer
too.
person than I am.
Oh,
Yes, she was.
yeah. Now, why do you say that? What would make you say that?
Because sometimes I say things that don't sound, oh, I don't know if they sound sharp.
Is it because that you have strong opinions about some things, or you're just more blunt?
No, it's because I intend it in a kidding manner. And most people take it that way.
Right.
But some people, their feelings are hurt. And there are things that she would never say.
Do you think that's because in general women were less apt to speak as bluntly as we do now, or make observations, or crack jokes the way we do now?
I know that my mother was always, I don't know if I should say concerned, but aware of children's feelings. And I think that not a lot of mothers were in the way that she was. I mean, even if they weren't her own children.
Especially in that era, kids
Yeah.
were raised differently, and you're right.
Oh yes, our grandfather lived with us. He was a minister. And because he couldn't stand the noise of 5 children, he built a little house across the driveway from us. And he would eat his meals with us, and he would say, "Well, I must get back. I must study." And he was always studying something. Another thing he did when he was around, if we irritated him in some way or did something, I'm sure we could have done something naughty, he'd make us sit in chairs and go off and leave us. And my mother felt that if he was the one who told us to sit in the chair, he should be the one to release us. But he didn't, so she would, because, it can't sit 20 minutes in a chair.
It's a bit much.
It is. Let me see.
We talked about your favorite place and changes. One of the other questions here is, what are the things that you might most enjoy or appreciate about living and growing up in this area?
One of the things I most enjoy is the scenery. I think this is a beautiful area. And I don't know why anyone would want to spend the winter in Florida. It's too flat. Have to have hills to hang your eyes on. There are warm places that I would rather go, like Hawaii. A little more expensive.
Very much so. You're right, it's a very unique area, and
Yes.
the type of scenery that we have, the way the seasons make it look
Right.
different.
And we have good water.
And a lot of it. That's a good choice. I agree with you. The
Yes.
scenery and the water, really spectacular here.
Yes.
There's a question on here about what do you think the future holds for Cortland? And
I hope it holds an economic and let's echo environment.
the ecology, the
Yes.
environment, yeah.
Yes. But that don't.
You don't, yeah. That poses a threat, you think? That there are
Well,
threats?
they've been so long and what they want to do with it, and I think that they don't seem to have any idea how much it's going to cost, or even exactly how much they're losing on it. And I don't think that ash is a good thing, and I think it would be nice if they didn't, if they had something better than shale.
So you follow the political scene. You follow the political scene here.
The political scene here?
It seems like you're pretty well informed. You keep up with it, the information.
Oh. Well, it's not upsetting to me, like the National is.
Why do you think that the legislature now doesn't have an idea of direction for the dump or the cost of the things that they're looking at? Why do you think that is? Or do you have an idea of why that might be, that they're not informed?
Well, I think what has happened with the legislature for several years is they don't get something settled, and somebody in the county, it's very dear to their heart. So they run, and they run with their own agenda in mind, and they try to force it. And that's happened. It isn't any particular party or person, it's just, well, it's individuals, but it's...
That's an interesting perspective, and I think you're right. I think it holds true when I think about it, that it's hard to get people to run now anyway.
Yes, it is.
So what motivates some of these people would be an issue that's near and dear to their heart that
Right.
they want to see happen. You're right, yeah, it's interesting. And then they try and drive the bus.
Yes. That's right.
And sometimes people don't want to go on that road.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do in Homer about the village.
The village,
Hall.
the village hall, whether to buy the train station or build new.
No, they can't do that.
They voted that down.
Yes.
Or to go
Well, I
to,
think the state
no, they
turned it down.
no,
I mean,
no, they voted not to do it.
well, I know they voted not to, but I think it was after the state
Mm.
told them they couldn't do it.
No.
Use that building that way.
No,
No.
it was still on the table.
Oh,
I was pretty shocked.
oh,
Yeah, that was, in fact, I think people still want to resurrect that idea, even given that vote, not to go there. Yeah, that was one alternative, building a whole nother building on a different site, or moving back into the town hall was the other
Yes.
option on the table.
They definitely don't seem to want to do that. They haven't wanted to for forever.
Yeah,
But where would they build? They said it's property they own,
good question.
so it wouldn't take anything off the tax rolls.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what property they own.
Is there land, you know Homer better than I, where the current village hall is now? Behind there, is there enough land back in there? Those are tennis courts or something back there, aren't there? Behind the little village hall?
I don't know
No.
anymore.
No.
Because the river is back there, and I'm not sure how close
Yeah,
it would be. And I don't know if they did something like that, if they tore down the building, they haven't incorporated it, that space.
because I don't know where else they would go. They own property where the mulch pile is.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
I don't know how much is there.
that's what I was thinking, and off Fulton Street.
Yes, right. You know, it kind of strikes me as that it's a little tiny village, and you've got the town around it, but they're both relatively small in the big scheme of things, you know. Why do they both need a big building, you know?
What?
Why would they both need a big building? The town hall is pretty big,
Yes,
the village is small.
right,
You can always store things off-site if you need a lot of storage.
Right.
In fact, it might be better to store it in a fireproof
right,
building, you know, it's like a vault type
Right.
building, you know. So I just can't get my head around why you need to have a big,
3,000 feet.
yeah, I just,
Yeah, I
10,000 feet.
I think, and it makes me wonder if it's one of the people that is so determined not to go back to the town hall has set that figure because they knew it would be difficult to do at the town hall. Something else I remember about the town hall, because they talked about the stage, I can remember when it was used as a theater. In fact, I was in a play one time, and I was the oldest of 10 children, 2 of which were my twin cousins.
What was the play?
I don't remember.
Was it fun? It must have been fun.
Oh yes, oh I thought,
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was, not more than 10.
Yeah. And did a lot of people come to see it?
Oh yes.
Oh, really?
Oh sure.
Oh.
Yes, they filled. I think it would run for 2 nights, probably. And it was like a community players or something.
Yeah.
Sort.
Well, that's cool. I've seen back up in there, that stage area. It makes me feel melancholy. It makes me feel kind of sad to
Yes,
see it.
yes.
And up above the stores further down, where there was another theater there. You can go up and see the theater up on the 3rd floor.
Oh, yes,
Is that
yes.
the Barber Block?
Yes.
I've gone up there, and that makes me feel sad too. Because
I have never been up there because they didn't allow you to for a long time. And once they allowed it, I wasn't so spry.
the stairs are steep. There's a
Yeah.
lot of them too. The stairs are all, you can see
Cupped.
yeah, with the foot, you know, you can think about all the people that went
Yes.
up those stairs. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Sometimes I'd like to be able to go back to the past for a day or two, just to see.
Yes, a day or two.
Yeah, just to see
Yeah.
how it was. Just see the people
Right.
watching your play
Yeah.
on the stage. Yeah. Was there anything else that you'd like to share?
I don't think so.
If you think of something, could I come back?
Yes, but I don't think of anything. One thing I think, now, when my mother took us shopping, one at a time usually, she might be buying fabric to make us she made us a lot of our clothes, our dresses and pajamas. And that was always fun.
The shopping?
Like to go, so we'd go to the 5 and 10. And,
now, where was the 5 and 10 in Homer or?
oh, no, in Portland.
In Portland.
Well, there was one later on.
Yeah.
But, and then there was Reed's Drugstore in Homer. And after school, when we were in high school, we stopped there after school, had one of the 10-cent Sundays.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. He was really good. He liked having the kids around, but there was no monkey business,
Yeah,
just nobody got out of line or else they weren't in.
Was it kind of like the fountain on It's a Wonderful Life, where the drugstore had the fountain along the side there? The kids would go and have their sodas.
You know what? I've seen It's a Wonderful Life once when it came out, and I've never cared to see it again.
That's the classic. They show it 500 times every Christmas season. You have a strong will.
Oh,
I think you're a pretty strong woman.
well, I needed it, especially when my husband died so suddenly,
Now,
and there I was with the kids.
when did he die? What?
He was 45.
My gosh, that was young.
Woke up in the morning and there he was.
Oh my goodness.
And the kids were 8, 11, and 16.
So you had to be. You picked up, went on.
Yeah. Well, I was glad I had a job to go back to
Yeah.
and didn't have to start out looking for one, never having worked since I
Right.
was married.
Wow, that must have been an awful shock.
Yes, it was the most traumatic day of my life.
But your children turned out all right? You did a good
No, I
job?
have 2 sons
Two
and a
sons?
daughter.
2 sons and a daughter?
Oh, the oldest son and the daughter live here, and the younger one lives in Vermont.
Well, that is different than a lot of people. A lot of people, when I talk to them, all their children have moved away somewhere. So you have 2 out of 3 here.
Yeah,
That's
I am
interesting.
fortunate.
Yeah, you are, yeah. In some ways they are, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's been fun talking to you, Margaret. Thank you.
You're welcome.